Now, it was last month that car company Jaguar embarked on the biggest change in its 102-year history, releasing a new logo and a so-called social media tease ahead of its relaunch as an electric-only car brand. Part of the launch was a quite edgy-looking ad featuring people in bold yellow and red outfits in what looked like a pink, rocky desert. There was no dialogue, but we can hear a bit of music.
Well,
Kamal, you're going to talk us through.
I'm actually going to play it.
Yes.
Whilst we are here, and let's just. I don't know, Camilla, if you've actually seen it yet.
I have
but
seen
here
it.
it is. So there's a lot of beating music, thumping. Create exuberance has just come onto the screen. There's dancing, beautiful dancing people. They're black, they're white, they're women. Live vivid, delete ordinary. Just telling our audience here to live the life, break molds.
Somebody's got a
Are you
sledgehammer.
feeling it? Someone with a sledgehammer. They've got very, very bright clothes on. And that's the end. Copy nothing.
Yeah. Then the Jaguar logo, just to explain, it's gone sans serif, so it's very modern. And then Jaguar, the G and the U in the middle of it are capped up. What is apparently some stroke of marketing genius. Now, it's faced widespread condemnation, this advert, because it doesn't feature a car. It all looks a bit non-binary and people are like, oh, they've gone woke. And then we now see the car itself. The concept of Jaguar's future is this very boxy-looking, space-age sort of rebranding of Lady Penelope's car in...
Or Cruella de Vil, maybe even. Yes, either of those
possibly.
two.
What was Lady Penelope in? I've lost my mind. What was that show called?
Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds. And that is the voice of our motoring editor, Paul Hudson. Thank you, Paul. At least you're on the money here. It's a bit Thunderbirds-esque. And we do accept, don't we, that the concept car, isn't necessarily something we're going to be driving sort of next week down Bromley High Street.
That's correct. I mean, it's important to stress that it is concept. It's a design vision, as they call it. So I think following the advert as well, it's actually the proof of the pudding is in the car.
Yes.
You can say what you like about the advert. I'm not a fan personally, but I am a fan of the car.
Kamal, you love this advert.
I do love the advert. I slightly agree with Rawdon Glover. He is the Jaguar managing director who responded to the avalanche of criticism the advert got by saying that the ad's message had been sort of lost. If you think about the car industry, it has changed so much from Jaguar's heyday, which would maybe be the 60s with the E-Type, and it was super, super, super hip. It then went through this very bizarre period where it sort of started fighting with sort of middle market Fords and things, and it was it like the Ford Mondeo, and now it wants to push itself back up to being a very, very high-end marque up against the top, Porsche and Aston Martins of the world. But the people who buy cars and will buy cars in the future are very different from the Gin and Jag set that bought Jaguars in the 1970s and 1980s. Many more women will now buy cars and make car buying decisions for the family. Electric cars are going to be a completely different concept to old petrol head cars. I think it's rather lovely. And the other thing, Camilla, I do love that. I do. Yeah, where you live. Yes, these are your people.
Oh, this is what's he saying about my people?
I just want to say, I just want to say this finally. I love the music. The music is cool. It's got a beat, and I kind of think, yeah, I can kind of re-engage with the old Jag.
If you
kind
don't
of
mind,
idea.
Kamal, I'll stick to the cars. But I think you hit the nail on the head, though. That the market is changing. Jaguar's been in trouble for a number of years, and they don't actually have any cars to sell at the moment, which is crazy. The car company with no cars to sell until this new electric model comes along. I think it's 2026. It's scheduled to go on sale. So they've just got to do something in the meantime to maintain that interest in the brand. Sorry, I hate to mention brand, but it is
Paul,
a branding
you're quite
exercise, isn't it? Marketing.
Look, I get the Gin and Jag set argument. My father had an E-Type Jag. I remember my mother driving it straight into somebody's front hedge on the way to a seaside holiday in Southwold.
Let's be very clear that I'm not being critical of the Gin and Jag set. I love them. I love them.
I don't know.
I think
There's a little barely concealed hatred for the Gin and Jag set.
Rubbish. I mean, there's that very sort of Arthur Daly image, though, isn't there? The sheepskin coat, that
yes.
old Jag Golf Club. You see the
Sunny
Matt,
Spiv,
the Matt cartoon today encapsulated it.
What does the Mac
beautifully.
cartoon say? Let's. What's the who? Get it up, Kamal.
You've got someone dressed up as if they're going to go clubbing at a very avant-garde club in Los Angeles, and you've got some old bloke in his garden saying you can't buy a Jaguar looking like that.
No, all right, fair enough. So I get the E-Type argument. However, I would just interject this. I had never considered buying a Jag until they brought out the I-Pace and the F-Pace. And when we were looking for a big car to accommodate my husband and I and our 3 children, we looked at the 4x4. Then we realised it was prohibitively expensive. Also, you're leathered in. It's a lovely, lovely car. And we realised the kids would just trash it. So we ended up, of course, getting a Land Rover Discovery Sport, darling, because you know that I'm that type of person who goes around in wellies and shoots things from the back of the car. But the point is, I just feel it's slightly out of kilter, funnily enough, and I did write this in a previous column. This idea of sort of dispensing with tradition so quickly and easily, Paul. Funny enough, the Gen Zers actually are very much into heritage brands. They're now wearing retro Ralph Lauren. They're kind of recycling their mother's Longchamp handbags. So this idea of kind of, I've called it a sans serifization of society. Let's just make everything modern. Let's take the Telegraph typeface, and just completely dispense with it and do something new because we're trying to get new customers, does actually end up alienating customers who quite liked the old-fashioned nature of it all.
It can do. I mean, I've just been wading through the comments earlier on, so I've been making some comments to the Andrew English's article. He actually saw the car, the real thing. Obviously, we've only had the advert to go by, but he says it's actually quite breathtaking in the flesh or in the metal. So
Jaguar aren't complaining about us talking about... This is the other thing.
Yes.
Oh, it's been a PR disaster. I've not seen a new car launch and rebrand get as many column inches as Jaguar has in the last few weeks.
I think Jaguar, nobody's been talking about Jaguar apart from the last few days.
Absolutely.
And that says it all, really,
Also,
I think.
Am I not right as well, Paul? I know its ownership is Tata, so an Indian company, but it's still actually a British business, and they manufacture here. Is that right? Mostly.
They have no cars to sell at the moment, but they are committed to producing this new electric GT in the UK. They are very committed to UK manufacturing, although some of their cars are made in Austria.
Yeah.
But
when you say they don't have any cars, Paul, just explain that to the uninitiated.
Jaguar's taken a break. In 2021 they launched this thing called Reimagine, which is hyphenated, of course. I'm not sure if it's sans serif or
Somebody
not.
phoned Simon Heffer. It shouldn't be hyphenated.
But Reimagine, the company, obviously they knew they were in trouble. They weren't shifting cars. And there was a bit of an image problem, as we've touched on. It's very that sort of bit fuddy-duddy sort of image, the old man in his Jaguar. So they launched Reimagine, and they said, we're going to stop selling cars, we're going to gear up totally for this electric car in 2026. But the whole thing is going to move the company up market. They're not chasing volume anymore. They're going to sell this, claim they're going to sell this for £100,000 or so.
So not many Gen Zs are going to be buying that, sadly.
This is the other thing. I mean, I'm sorry, but there must be a unique set of people in the UK who spend £100,000 on a car. Who are these people, Paul?
I wish I knew them.
Yeah, I wish I was them. I mean,
well, yes, that's more to the point.
But where's the battle? Obviously, they're in a very rarefied market. They'll only be selling a handful of these cars in each country, and that's where they think the big profit. It's like your first class seat on an aeroplane. That's the big profit comes at these eye-watering amounts. I think
that's been in the airlines recently, hasn't it? Everybody's exploiting the premium class cabins.
I think you can only actually buy at the moment the F-Pace. I think, is that right?
There's only one. F-Pace. There are various cars, and
that's the only one they now make, and that means they are closing down a lot of showrooms as well, which is going to be a big problem for them, because people who buy cars at this kind of level want to have a luxurious experience of buying the thing. So if you go along Park Lane and you see the Porsche dealership and the BMW dealership in London, those are places where your super high net worth individuals go and buy a car. I was quite surprised though on Andrew English's very, very good review of the new concept car, which he says in reality is a much more dusty pink, not a Barbie-pink. Okay, so that's maybe a little bit nicer. But looking at the comments, Paul, as you say, our readers are actually more positive than maybe I would have expected. They say, Well, his BH is one of the people. It's actually not bad. The advert was quite silly, but the car itself is certainly striking. The key is to appeal to people with money. And then Paul Mason says the concept car is practically scraping the ground. Oh, he actually makes the practical point. The first average pothole or speed bump, it's going to be stuck. So there's a practical thing, as you say, with a concept car. That's not actually where you're going to drive down Bromley High Street.
Also,
that's why I've been keen to stress that it is only a concept.
Can I just ask the two blokes in the studio, would you ever drive a dusty pink car?
No.
Paul?
It wouldn't.
I'd have to see it first, but I wouldn't object to any car on colour alone.
You see,
Fair enough.
I think
Very open-minded of you, Paul.
if you have to park your car on a street in North London, I think if it's a massive dusty pink 100 grand affair, it's not going to last that long.
No,
to be
that's
honest,
right.
you need something more plain.
Anywhere, it's a sort of camouflage.
Unless you've got
urban camouflage.
unless you've got the 4 garages like you've got, Camilla, where you can put your cars, and then your security team can make sure it's all locked up.
Once again,
some of us don't live like that, Camilla. I wouldn't be allowed.
I do not have a garage. We ran out of space at our converted bungalow and had to change the garage into initially a playroom.
My goodness,
And now
thoughts
it's
and
got
prayers,
some gym
Camilla.
equipment in it that is not used as often as it should be.
Do you have a drive-in, drive-out drive?
To be fair, I do.
Thank you.
I think it's interesting what you're saying before about
You
Gen
rest
Z
your
as
case.
well, because they're the people who this advert's probably aimed at, but they don't buy cars.
No,
generally.
they don't. They don't buy cars.
So
They live in the city and they use
that's my
public
biggest fear
transport.
for the whole market, obviously, with Stellantis, and that's probably a topic for another show. But the whole
That's
way
the owner
the
of Vauxhall,
market,
how they struggle with EVs.
the
yeah.
market is changing sort of exponentially almost, and I sometimes worry for what we call heritage brands, which is Jaguar, Mercedes,
Aston
all those
Martin.
brands, Aston Martin, a lot of the Italian brands, Maserati and Alfa Romeo, fantastic names, and they're really struggling. So
Well, if they want to give us a car,
We can,
we can promote it. I mean, I happily drive around in an
like
Aston.
Keir Starmer, we're not affected by getting freebies.
No, we're
so
not.
we would just
Oh,
be
I'm just
very
happy
honest
to
about
declare
it.
that. I'll
Camilla,
declare
you
it
just
now.
change your surname to Maserati. And
That's
then
right. Well, to be
You're
fair,
Italian.
I'm Italian. I can make that work.
But Camilla, I need to ask you the same question. Would you drive a dusty pink £100,000 car around the lovely lanes of Hertfordshire?
It wouldn't be my first choice colour. I'm a bit more of a midnight blue kind of girl. Okay. Or, of
Sophisticated.
course, British racing green, obviously,
Of
being a
course.
patriot. But, I mean, I wouldn't say no to a 100 grand car in any colour.
If Jaguar are listening,
Jaguar
all three of us would not say no to driving it around for a bit.
Thank you very much, Paul, for your insight into that
Pleasure.
story. We're going to be revving back into action, Kamal, tomorrow, 5 p.m.